There was another piece that we wanted to get to here, which is an interesting exchange between Barstool's Dave Portnoy and Tucker Carlson discussing age with regard to both Trump and Biden, and also discussing Trump's absence from the first GOP debate. A lot of people took note of this. Let's take a listen.
Like, I thought he should have done the debate.
Yeah.
Like, to me, if you're voting on the president, you want to hear him debate. He's brilliant. He's the best to ever play the political game. So to become president, I think it was the right move not to do it. But for the betterment of the country, I think you should be on the debate.
I kind of agree. I like the debates personally.
I mean, how else is people going to decide?
The problem is that the news companies that host the debates are so rotten and corrupt, and everybody knows it.
The whole thing's rotten.
The whole thing is rotten and corrupt. Is Biden going to be the nominee?
I don't know. I'm not a political person, but I feel like there's been a shift where internally, maybe the Democrats don't think he can win, and they're setting the stage to do somebody else. I think it's crazy if I mean, to be honest, I think both Trump and Biden are too old. I don't think you should be able to be that old and be president. But I think Trump certainly seems
100%
more aware. I mean, I think Biden has got some serious dementia issues. Like how that is the president, I don't know. And that's not a Democrat, because I said about both. It's like Mitch, the guy who had the stroke, doing the speech the other day.
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, like how are these people running our country? You wouldn't put these people in
I would say in
control of a
McConnell's, the only
CEO.
defense I would say of Mitch McConnell is McConnell post-stroke is an improvement over McConnell pre-stroke.
What did you make of that, Saagar?
Look, I mean, I think he represents frustration. I mean, Dave, look, he says he's not a Trump supporter now. I think he said he's moved on.
But was he previously?
Trump.
I didn't even know.
I mean, definitely did in 2015. He wrote a whole thing about how he supported Trump, and then obviously interviewed Trump in 2020. I wouldn't call him a supporter per se. Like he's a cultural figure much more than political, which is why he kind of interests me whenever it comes to these things. I did think it was significant, though, about what he said. He said, I think these two men are too old, but he was like, how are people supposed to decide? And I think that was a great normie view into how a lot of people will look at Biden's decision not to participate in Democratic debates and Trump not participating in debates. Now, to be fair, GOP primary voters are not going to care about that at all. But I think that people who are more outside of the political process are like, well, you know, these things kind of are important. And, you know, we even saw, Krystal, did you really expect the pop, not even our show, but in general, of the media attention that was showed to the GOP primary debate without Trump? I didn't. I can tell you that right now. We saw an extraordinary amount of interest from a lot of people. Of course, our audience is disproportionately young. And I think that's because people like seeing an actual exchange. They like seeing somebody get pressed on something. They like seeing how people interact with each other. We got a lot out of that debate in some ways, you know, especially specifically also the Nikki Haley versus Ramaswamy, the Mike Pence, and what was going on, DeSantis's decision to like put himself above the fray, and then the subsequent movement there that we have seen since about how the anti-Trump vote really taking a big look over at Nikki Haley, Ramaswamy remaining more static than we expected because a lot of those people are just Trump people. I mean, there's so much to learn, I think, from these things. And I think that he really put his he really understood there that it's like, well, how are people supposed to decide? How are people supposed to evaluate? There just hits home what you were saying earlier, which is like, look, I think, you know, as with Reagan, Reagan's genius was that he campaigned very hard and then he disarmed people and was like, no, I'm not too old to be president. I mean, Biden has to convince people probably triple times more what Reagan did. And instead, he's probably doing, I would say, less than 1/3 of what Reagan actually did when he was running for president.
Would have been nice if Tucker had pressed Trump on any of this when he sat for him for an interview during the debate. Would have been nice to see him pressed on those things. Listen, unfortunately for Biden, politically, it is the right decision. I think it's abhorrent. I think it's disgraceful. I think it's anti-democratic for him to not even, you know, submit himself whatsoever to a democratic process. However, given how he presents and how he would likely perform on a debate stage, politically, I think it's a no-brainer what they're doing. And his basement strategy, recreating the basement strategy, is probably the best thing he could possibly do, because I just don't think he has the goods, right? For Trump, I continue to think there is a little bit of danger in the strategy, a little bit of danger. Because you are allowing people to see these other candidates. You are allowing these other candidates to grab some of the headlines and some of the spotlight. You are allowing Republican primary voters to imagine a post-Trump party and consider, okay, if Trump was not in the picture, who would be my chosen candidate? And, you know, None of them are my cup of tea, but I think for Republican-based voters, there was a lot that they probably, wherever they fall in the Republican spectrum, they probably saw someone on that stage that they were like, you know what, that person was good. I like them. I like their policy. I like how they present themselves, whatever. So I continue to think there is a little bit of danger for Trump. Do I think that it is likely to, end up being an issue for him? No, not likely, but, it's a little risky, and he's very good at debates. I have lots of issues with Trump, but as a political performer, Portnoy's right. There's no one better in the political game in terms of just sheer performance value than Donald Trump. And so pushing aside the opportunity for him to go out and do his thing that he does better than anyone else, I don't think it's actually the right call. I think he's actually making a small mistake. Again, is it going to be determinative? No, probably not. But is it a little bit of a missed opportunity for him? Yes.
Well, that's what he's betting on, is that the risk would be too high. I think he should have more confidence in himself. He's obviously, after what we saw, I'm like, oh, Trump would have nuked that whole thing. He would have absolutely dominated the stage. So, yeah, look, he's a student, probably the best media manipulator in the history of the American presidency. And if anybody would study it incorrect, I think it would be him.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.